Hello and welcome to Linesniper Fight Night. I am your host, Dave Milhouse. Today we are talking UFC Vegas 26, live from Las Vegas, Nevada. We're going to be at the UFC Apex again, so we do have that smaller octagon to work with. I got Cody Saftic back with me. We're going to take you right through this main card, and then we're going to sprinkle a little in the prelims for you, give you our best bets, tell you where the value lies. As usual, leave you with some winners here. So Cody, welcome to the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, this was supposed to be an absolutely stacked show that had TJ Dillashaw coming back against Corey Sandhagen. We had Donald Cerrone versus Diego Sanchez. And unfortunately for, reasons out of our hands, it's kind of taken a bit of a hit late. But still a fun offering nonetheless. A couple decent spots that I like. So happy to be here as always talking about it with you, Dave.
Yeah, it would have been an amazing fight card. We're left with some scraps, but if the scraps make money, it'll be entertaining nonetheless. So here in the main event, we have women's strawweight, 115-pound Marina Rodriguez, Michelle Waterson. We got Rodriguez coming in around a minus 200 favorite. Cody, kick it off for us.
Yeah, to be honest, I just don't really love it from a main event standpoint. We've got 5 rounds between Michelle Waterson and Marina Rodriguez. I think that the natural assumption when the fight gets announced is that it would be Rodriguez's favorite, and that's what you see here. The minus 200 just seemed a little bit too much for my blood. When you look at Rodriguez, what does she do well? She's very big, long, strong, physical, has good striking, big power, especially for this weight class. But what she doesn't do well particularly is her defensive wrestling. She does get taken down. Mind you, it's against the Carlos Spars of the world. It's against Cynthia Calvillo. It's against her last fight against Amanda Hebus. But still, there's a trend there. There's a trend there that generally she does get taken down in these fights off of her back because she has these long limbs. It is her advantage standing because she can stay long, kind of kick from range, use that long jab of hers. But it's also to her detriment when she's on her back because it's harder for her to create scrams, create space, and get back up. So with Michelle Waterson, we know that she can fight 5 rounds. We saw that in the Angela Hill fight. It was a hard 5 rounds. She lands well over 100 significant strikes, pushes a pace, lands a takedown for good measure. It's all there. She does have the wrestling advantage. She does theoretically have the grappling advantage. I would say striking goes towards Rodriguez because of the power, but it's not like Waterson's a fish out of water. This is the karate hottie. She's got good sound defensive striking. She's got better volume, better output. She could keep it theoretically close standing, but then mix in those takedowns to try to steal up some rounds. And because of that reason, it just seems like the plus 170 for the underdog seems like the way to go. Now, I like the overs in this spot as well, but let's be real. I mean, so does the bookie. They're kind of giving you some juice numbers there as well. So I don't know that I love this fight from a betting standpoint, but I think that for anything, it would be dog or pass for me. Waterson has 5-round championship experience. She's been here. She's done that. She's fought the who's of the division. She always comes prepared, in shape, ready to go. And with Rodriguez, this is the first time ever that she's fighting in a 5-round situation. We've seen her tire out a few times in 3-round situations. She's 34 years old. One would believe that she's not getting incrementally better fight to fight. But in a 5-round spot, if Waterson can have it 29-28 going into those championship rounds, 4 and 5, secure those 2, win this fight, even keep it close like the Angela Hill fight and squeak out another split decision, then for plus 170, I mean, it's definitely worth a look.
Yeah, so I totally agree with your assessment. When I'm looking at this line, I think the bookies are clearly giving credit to the statistical data here, and that's with Marina Rodriguez. She's got about a plus 1.7 strike differential, and the Karate Hotties is a 0 minus 0.42, so slightly negative differential, and someone that's landing about 1.7 strikes a minute more than their opponents, and they're pricing it in like that's the way this is going to play out at a minus 200. I suppose the only issue I have and where I think the value lies is within the grappling. And we've seen Michelle Waterson's last fight. She attempted 18 takedowns on Angela Hill. She landed 1. So we can say, well, she sucks. She stinks at wrestling. We could say Angela Hill actually has really improved her takedown defense. Or we can just view this as someone who has a grapple-heavy game plan and is going to stick to it. And if that's the case, she could really score 3 or 4 takedowns, which is well above Michelle Waterson's average of 1.5 takedowns in a fight, in a 15-minute fight. So if she can score 4 takedowns, I think that drastically reduces the strikes per minute that Marina Rodriguez can land, because she's obviously going to be busy defending takedowns and getting control time on her. And so I think that makes the fight a little bit closer than the odds may seem. So I would agree. I think there is some Michelle Waterson value here. It's just a matter of, do you believe that she can get these takedowns, and do you believe she can take the the beating for 5 rounds? And I think she can. Like you alluded to, there's not as much gas in the tank as you'd like to see for a minus 200 favorite in a 5 round fight. I've seen her start to slow down in rounds 2 and 3, be a bit of a zombie. So we don't necessarily know that Rodriguez has the full 5 rounds, and there, that's it's a little bit of variance, right? And it's negative variance towards the favorites. So again, I think if anything, there's got to be a touch of value on the underdog in this spot. So that would be my pick. Next up, we have Donald Cerrone, Alex Morono. Cerrone's coming in at about minus 190. Cody, take us through this fight, please.
Okay, so originally scheduled, we got Donald Cerrone taking on former teammate, one-time friend Diego Sanchez, and I think that's a fight that definitely favors Donald Cerrone. He's something lined up like a 6-1 favorite, and a lot of people are under the assumption that he's supposed to win the fight. Very late in the week, Diego Sanchez and his coach kind of get into a disagreement with the UFC, and then he's released. And now Morono's stepping in on like a week's notice. So to me, that's really the big X factor. First and foremost, Donald Cerrone is just a better fighter. He has better striking than Alex Morono. He has better wrestling than Alex Morono. He has better grappling than Alex Morono. As far as durability, Cowboy is 38 years old. He's getting a little bit older. I think that some people are going to question his chin at this stage in his career. But Alex Morono, not exactly the most durable guy going himself. Again, when you go back to Donald Cerrone, he's fought the best guys in 2 weight classes. He's a former world title challenger. He's also fought, the best 170 pounders on the planet. And generally speaking, is he kind of getting to the tail end of his career? Yeah, I think his best days are behind him, but he's still a problem for a lot of these guys that are up and coming or might not quite be at that level. He's kind of reduced to gatekeeper status. But let's not forget that the guy does have good output. He has tight technical Muay Thai skills, great leg kicks. His wrestling, something that he's been working on the last decade, definitely made improvements there. You see him when he takes on the Rick Stories of the world, the Patrick Cotes of the world, the Mike Perrys of the world, the Alex Cowboy Oliveras of the world. Those guys he takes down no problem. He can out-grapple no problem. It's taking on the best guys of the world, the Rafael Dos Anjos of the world, the Tony Fergusons of the world, the Justin Gaethjes of the world, the Jorge Masvidal. Those are guys who are top 5 guys in the world. Even Darren Till. Darren Till is a massive welterweight, right? Now fights at 185 pounds, and Donald Cerrone is a former lightweight. So again, like not only losing the best guys in the world, but not putting them in great positions to win these fights. So as far as the losing streak is concerned, winless over his last 5, hasn't won a fight since 2018. Legitimate 4-fight losing streak, and then that last fight with Nico Price, a little bit wonky, right? Certainly, we can agree that we don't have a ton of faith in Donald Cerrone, but he was going to beat Diego Sanchez, and now in steps Alex Morono, and I gotta favor Donald Cerrone. I mean, outside of him getting chin checked by something and toppling over, I mean, he does have the advantage everywhere. And Alex Morono is not particularly a big power puncher. He is a decent volume guy when he is at his best, but a lot of the time he's not at his best. Think about this for a minute. This guy's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. And outside of one fight with Riz McKee, maybe, he never uses the Josh Berkman fight, I guess, with the guillotine. Never uses his grappling at all. Hardly ever attempts takedowns. Just likes to come forward, put some pressure on you, break his opponents down. He's a very lower to middling level of competition in the UFC. A couple times he's stepped up, unfortunately, it hasn't gone well for him. That last fight with Anthony Pettis, this is his moment. This is a huge moment for him. It's the biggest name on his resume. It's a fading Anthony Pettis, a former world champion. You go out there, you get the win over Pettis. It looks extremely good for you. He goes out there in the first round. He does win, in my opinion, the first round against Pettis. But outside of that, I mean, he just started to drastically slow down to the point that Anthony Pettis soundly outstrikes him in round 2. And then in the third round, botched takedown attempt by Alex Morono allows Anthony Pettis to assume top control, and then he even almost finishes him late for good measure. So it's an easy 29-28 for Anthony Pettis, and he does get the victory. The UFC is so unimpressed with Anthony Pettis and his method of victory over Alex Morono that they release him. They release him from his contract, and then we've seen him sign with PFL. And we've seen how good that's gone for him in his PFL fight versus Clay Collard. So for Morono, the concerning thing there is that he is a guy that kind of one of his best weapons is that he's got decent cardio, can push a bit of a pace, stays in your face, and is aggressive. And he just flat out gassed in the biggest fight of his career after 1 round. So Cerrone's got a full camp. Morono's coming in on a week's notice. His gas tank's still going to be suspect. Even if he is competitive in the first round with Donald Cerrone, Cowboys should pull away in rounds 2 and 3 or be able to force a stoppage at some point, whether it be take him down and beat him up on the ground, or whether it be catch him with something clean standing. Cerrone's got a couple hurrahs left in him. This would be one of them. So the pick here is going to be Donald Cerrone. Not 100% sure if I got it inside the distance or by decision, but at minus 190, it's not the worst price I've seen. I would just bet it straight up.
Yeah, right on. So when I look at this line, I see a bit of a difference in the data compared with the story that the line's telling. We look at Cerrone's career; he's getting hit with as much as he's landing, and a guy like Morono actually is a plus 1.3 in his strike differential. So what the market's ultimately seeing is the strength of schedule that you alluded to. Cowboys fought maybe the hardest last five of anyone in the UFC. Gaethje, Ferguson, McGregor. I mean, that's just a ridiculous 3 in a row for an aging veteran that's on his way out, diminishing. That's a lot of punishment to take, and he took a fair amount. He's still capable of taking a fair amount. So what I think the books are seeing here is this is an above average spot for Cerrone, because a guy like Morono is way below his average strength of schedule. And that's going to take him from, his average of 4.4 strikes landed a minute and put him over 5. And it's going to take his 4.4 that he absorbs and knock it down from 4.4 to below 4. And it's going to flip Morono's stats around too. He's not going to be landing 5 a minute on Cerrone, only getting hit by 3.7 like he was doing against Otto and Griffin. I mean, it's not even comparable. So they're pricing Cerrone like he's going to outland this kid by about a strike a minute if it goes to the scorecards. I think it'll be close to that, probably about 0.75 is where I modeled it out at. But I also think there's an advantage in the grappling here for Cowboys Cerrone. Alex Morono has a 47% takedown defense. And so basically anybody with decent wrestling that makes a plan of it is going to be able to land. And so Cerrone lands 1.2 on average every 15 minutes. This is an above average spot. And since you can't go to 1.25 takedowns in a fight, you have to go straight to 2. I'd have to assume that in most scenarios he lands 2 takedowns as well as outstrikes this kid. So I totally agree with the minus 190 price tag. I wouldn't say I see a ton of value, but the pick would be Cerrone. I don't think this is at all a dog or pass situation. Next up, Neal Magni, Jeff Neal. This is another interesting fight where the odds are telling one story and the data is telling another. We got Neal Magni is a plus 163 right now. He's showing the better data. I'm going to take you through that after. Jeff Neal here, minus 191. Cody, is that justified? Can you take us through this one, please?
Yeah, okay, so I think this is a dog or pass situation. I'm a little bit nervous about it because Neal Magny's going to have to play with hot fire for 15 minutes. But if he minds his P's and Q's and fights a proper game plan, I think that he's got the assets to go out there and get the win. Both these guys were largely disappointing in their respective last outings. You got Jeff Neal going 5 rounds with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, but I mean, loses all 5 rounds, never really in that fight for the most part. And Neal Magny, he fights Michael Chiesa for 5 rounds and never is in that fight at all, loses all 5 rounds. I think that a lot of people expected a lot more from each fighter, and they just didn't quite deliver. So now you got Jeff Neal. He's still only 30 years old. Goes back to the drawing board. What does he have to change? Well, in the Wonderboy Thompson fight, is really, when you look at the guys that Neal's fought, they're come-at-you type brawlers. The win over Mike Perry, the win over Nico Price, the fight with Bilal Muhammad. These guys are going to come after you. With Stephen Wonderboy Thompson backpedaled, used angles, used his footwork, used his speed, and kind of matadored him. And Jeff Neal moving forward and having to track down an opponent, he looked lost out there. He looked out of place. Not only that, I mean, he barely let his hands go for the first 3 rounds, started to pick it up late, and eventually had his best round in the 5th. But by that point, he was already down 4 rounds to begin. So not a great look for him. Neal Magny, meanwhile, he got polar opposite by Michael Chiesa. He got taken down in every single round and largely controlled. But when I think about Magny and Magny's striking style, he's not like a big KO guy. He's not like a big flashy striker, but he's really good meat and potato guy. He's got a good jab, 80-inch reach on him, right? Big, very big, long guy for the weight class. But he's good at using that reach, staying on the outside, using his kicks. We also know training at elevation. I mean, great cardio, never really seems to fatigue, pushes a pace on a lot of these guys. And Magny's even a guy that, is known to come on late if you don't put him away. The Michael Chiesa fight, Michael Chiesa had the ace in his back pocket that he's way stronger than him. He could peel him to the ground whenever he wanted. His top control was just far too much. But Jeff Neal doesn't have grappling. So Jeff Neal's real only path to victory here is to line up Neal Magny and knock him out. Whereas Neal Magny can just hopefully, to a far lesser extent than Wonderboy Thompson, is backpedal, man. Use your range, use your distance, stay to the outside as much as you can. I understand it is a small octagon, but you've got to use your footwork and you've got to just be able to push a pace for 15 minutes, hopefully tire him a little bit. And then if you can mix in the grappling, if you can tie up with this guy in the clinch and you can, hopefully get him to the ground, then he would be able to theoretically score some points on the judges' scorecards there. This thing goes 15, squeak out a close decision. Magny's starting to get older himself. Since he came back from a layoff, we've seen he went on that little streak, and a lot of it's just breaking these guys down. He looked good in the Jing Liang Li fight. He looked good in the Robbie Lawler fight. And then he runs into Michael Chiesa, bad style clash, and now everyone's writing him off. So, again, I think when you look at the underdog status of him, it's good plus money. And to me, I'm not fully sold on Jeff Neal. We see this every single week as a guy that's come to the UFC, knocks out his first 3, 4, 5 opponents, looks good doing it. It's mediocre level of talent. And now all of a sudden, just everyone jumps right on him. There was a lot of people betting him over Stephen Thompson, a 2-time world title challenger. And yet he loses that fight. And now he's coming in here as a nearly 2-1 favorite over Neal Magny, who's headlined multiple cards for the UFC, who's been in a lot of big spots, who trains with some of the world's best guys in Justin Gaethje and Drew Dober, and a plethora of good, talented guys at Elevation Fight Team over in Colorado. So I would say he's live dog. For me, it's a dog or pass situation. Neal Magny or pass, and I wouldn't fault you if you took the pass as well. Like I don't disrespect Jeff Neal. I just look at the line and I think that Magny could pull this one off.
Fair enough. And when I look at the data for this fight, you see Jeff Neal's landing exactly what he's receiving at 4.9 a minute. And a guy like Neal Magny over his long career, he's landing 3.67, only absorbing 2. So, he's getting himself 1.6 strikes a minute ahead of his opponents. He's fought reasonable competition the whole time. And a guy like Jeff Neal sitting even here. And yet, Jeff Neal's a 2-1 favorite. And so if we go even look at the grappling here, Neal Magny's a guy who lands, 2.5 takedowns every 15 minutes over the course of his career. He's doing it at a 45% clip, so he's a pretty good wrestler. You'd have to imagine that he's able to take this to the mat at least once. He has the wrestling advantage. I know Jeff Neal has a good takedown defense. It's 92%, but the guys that he's grappling with are, lesser grapplers than Magny, I would say. So that should come down a notch. But ultimately, if you just look at it like this, you'd have to side with Magny. If you watch the film on all these, again, I think you'd start to see an advantage with Magny. And so why is the books telling this 2-1 story for Jeff Neal? And so I looked into the data and separated, like I like to, against top competition and see the difference. And you'll find that Stephen Thompson landed 171 significant strikes on Jeff Neal, and the rest of his career combined was 126 that he absorbed. The 25 minutes with Stephen Thompson represents almost 40% of his octagon time in his life. And the other 15 minutes that was really tough on his schedule is Bilal Muhammad. And so that's 40 minutes of his basically 1 hour in the octagon. 2/3 of his octagon time is against Bilal Muhammad and Stephen Thompson. And so that's why we see not such flattering stats here. So you can assume that Neal Magny is close to Bilal Muhammad's status. Like, he's not quite as good, so this would be about the 3rd best fighter he's fought, which would bring him a little, bring his numbers and adjust them a bit. I don't know that he's going to be landing more than he normally does, but he's certainly going to get hit less. Neal Magny has less output. So I can see a way that the books model this out where a guy like Jeff Neal should outstrike and be ahead. He's also got the power and the durability, and I think that gives him the advantage in the situations of variance. But at the end of the day, I think it's very hard to bet on a guy like Jeff Neal, even though when we adjust these numbers, and you can probably adjust them so he's landing 5 a minute and absorbing 3.5 or something like that, he's still going to get taken down if that's the game plan of Neal Magny. And it's hard to say exactly how much of this variance is going to come into play. We don't have this lined like it's going to go to decision. It's about 60% probability it goes over 2.5. So yeah, there's quite a bit of variance to come into play here. I'm not comfortable with it at all, but I can see why they make Magny the underdog here. But again, I don't know if we can justify a bet on Jeff Neal anywhere near this minus 190. I think it's probably pretty close to a fair break even on Magny at the 163 mark. But with all the added variance, that's very hard to model out. So I'm leaving that one alone. This fight's another one with a ton of variance. I'm not interested in it at all. Again, we got Maurice Green and we got Marcos Rogerio de Lima. holes galore in both these fighters' games. So there's just paths on paths to victory and variance built into this line. I don't really know what to make of it. Good thing we got Cody to take us through it. Give us the X's and O's, buddy.
Yeah, talk about a dirty, sloppy fight. We got Maurice Green coming in, and he's a very untrustworthy fighter. He's a little bit older himself and just 33 years old, but he was spent kickboxing. That as far as his MMA career goes, he's just very young, very green, Maurice Green, and not quite making the improvements that he needs to at the elite level. We saw him in the Ultimate Fighter. Serious holes in his game, takedown defense always an issue. Cardio not great. He's smoking cigs on the show while he was on Tough. And then comes into the UFC. I mean, he actually did start off 3-0, but talk about a whack-ass start. Like, doesn't particularly look good. The Michel Batista fight, again, he's taking on a 40-plus-year-old Cuban fighter who had virtually no MMA experience. The Jeff Hughes fight, nothing happens. It's a terrible fight, split decision, but very, very low output. And then he catches Junior Albini. That was kind of like the one feather in his cap. Junior Albini had a terrible run inside of the UFC, no longer with the promotion, but at least still he did go out there, land a clean punch, get the knockout. I don't know if it's a better level of competition. I don't, you call it what you want to call it. He has fought some decent guys, but again, it's the same issues that he always has. His cardio is not any good. His takedown defense is not any good. And as far as his striking, he is 6'7". He is a big, large, physical guy, but he doesn't have a ton of power. He's one of these guys that can teep kick from the outside, kick to the body, kick to the legs, land that jab, but he's not one of these big crushing knockout guys. Yeah, even the fight with Jean Vellante. Jean Vellante is a career 205er who probably could make 185 pounds, let's be real, but takes a fight at heavyweight, shows up to the scales looking like the pizza delivery guy, and then proceeds to go out there and probably win the first 2 rounds against Maurice Green, backing him up and slugging him before Maurice Green lands like an Ezekiel choke off his back, no hooks or anything, just like puts it on him. And Jean's so tired he just taps out. But it's again, it's a bad performance. And it's just this repetitive thing with Maurice Green. It's like, oh man, Rogeria De Lima, massively untrustworthy himself. One thing I will give him is that as bad as this guy is, and I myself am not a fan of De Lima in the slightest bit, is that he's never lost back-to-back fights in the UFC. And that's because there's very little expectations on him the majority of the time. But he does have huge power, and when he fights very low-level guys, and you look at his entire record, it's the majority of them lower-level guys. Yeah, he goes out there and he crushes the cans. The guys that are mid-level or upper level, I mean, they have their way with him. He is also a career 205 that at heavyweight, but when he weighs in on the scales, it's like he's a big boy. He's filled out quite well. He's got big, thick legs on him. He is a Muay Thai black belt. I mean, I guess there's a rating system for Muay Thai, but he is a black belt. He does have heavy leg kicks. He's technically a jiu-jitsu black belt as well. But that being said, like when you see him give up a forearm choke to Romanov, it's like a BJJ black belt. No matter how tired or hurt you are, like you wouldn't give up a forearm choke to a guy, right? I don't think his jiu-jitsu is very good. His striking, as much as he's a Muay Thai black belt, I don't think his striking is very good. It's just that he's strong. And when you fight lower-level guys, he can put it together. This is one of those spots. Yeah, you and I spoke last week, Dave, about an excellent little live betting opportunity for one Luke Sanders. That Luke Sanders would come out there, win the first round, as he always wins the first round, and it would be a very good opportunity to live bet against him for the first round. Now, after the first round, you were able to get Felipe Corrales for plus 240. He proceeds to go on, win the decision. So you would start off with shares of Luke Sanders, but then the hedge out amount to get 4-1, 3-1, 2-1, 2+1 on the opponent is almost too good to pass up. When I look at this fight, I think something very similar. Rogerio De Lima probably goes out there and lands the shot or lands a takedown, gets on top of Maurice Green, pounds him out, maybe even gets an arm triangle choke. He probably finishes him inside of the first round, if not a round and a half. But certainly he's winning that first round. If for whatever reason Maurice Green was to still be going after 2 rounds, that's when it would be a serious problem. And that's when you'd be able to get a huge live out hedge opportunity to maybe go the other way and take Maurice Green. But as far as pre-fight bet goes, and I hate this, I really do, I would have to go with Marcos Rogerio De Lima.
I can't disagree with that. When I look at the data here, the line makes a lot of sense to be where it is. Maybe you could even argue that there would be a slight edge even taking the favorite here. De Lima's landing 3.78 strikes a minute and only absorbing 2.5. So he's getting up ahead on the scorecards by 1.25 a minute. And you look at someone like Maurice Green, who gets outlanded over his career by a very small margin, but nonetheless, it's a negative strike differential. So he's falling behind a minute. Now, a guy like Maurice Green has a 28% takedown defense. You mentioned how his wrestling is a problem. It is a problem. It's a huge problem. Anyone that wants to take this guy down will take him down. And, well, De Lima has a 60% takedown accuracy. The problem is he doesn't shoot enough. He only averages 0.7 takedowns every 15 minutes. But this is a guy very capable, I think, of landing a takedown on Maurice Green. So, in basically all situations where this is going to a scorecard, you'd have to lean De Lima until the variance I mentioned. One being his gas tank. I don't know that he can go more than 2.5 hard rounds. And like you alluded to, that opens up a wonderful live betting opportunity on Maurice Green. And the other, bits of variance, I'm thinking De Lima knocking out Green as the main part of it. But these are still heavyweights. I mean, I don't think Maurice Green's a big power guy, but you land the right shot on the button in this division, and you're going night. So, loads of variance. But like Cody said, live betting opportunity wise, I think that's actually a wonderful play, because when I model this out in the event that does go to the scorecards, and he doesn't gas out so bad that he's getting, a 10-8 round against him in round 3, you'd have to assume De Lima is ahead. He can win rounds 1 and 2 with his strike differential and landing a takedown pretty easily. So I think you can comfortably be ahead and then hedge out. This is a pretty good spot for that. But ultimately, I think a lot of people are on the dog or pass kind of situation here. I'm not. I would be De Lima or pass at the current line. What do we got up next here? We got Diego Ferreira, Gregor Gillespie. Gillespie's coming in about minus 175, 180 right now. Cody, give us the X's and O's.
Okay, so talking about dog or pass, I think that this one probably is. I think that Gregor Gillespie, listen, we know how talented he is as a wrestler, but as far as his MMA progression, I don't know. I mean, he's 34 years old, and he's yet to really test himself outside of the Kevin Lee fight, which he did not pass that test. It's a while ago now. What I mean by that is when you see him come into the UFC right off the get-go, that's his toughest test. Clayco Fracca, former Ultimate Fighter champion, BJJ black belt, he goes out there at even money and gets the win. But then since then, I mean, he killed his own time. I mean, fighting guys like Andrew Holbrook and Jason Gonzalez and Vince Bichelle and even Yancy Medeiros, because it's a huge stylistical clash that favors him. None of these guys are willing to go out there and are able to test him. So Gregor, he develops this aura that he's undefeated. He's a fantastic wrestler. Could have been an Olympian if it wasn't for the fact that he wrestled in the same weight class as Jordan Burroughs, the eventual gold medalist. He was always number 2 in the wrestling world, but I mean, a fantastic guy. I mean, when you see him in the UFC, perfect. Everyone's clamoring to the idea that nobody can wrestle against Khabib. There's nobody in the UFC that can stuff Khabib's takedowns. Finally, there's a guy that, at least on paper, it's like Gregor Gillespie could go out there and, as far as just a straight up wrestling match, have success against Khabib. At the very least, neutralize Khabib's offensive wrestling. It's how is he going to put everything else together? And he just doesn't. At least Khabib, when he came to the UFC, he was fighting good guys, but he was fighting often. Gregor Gillespie, he's let the best prime years of his career go. I mean, he loves fishing. He's on record multiple times. I'd rather be being fishing. And I actually do believe him. I think he's a fantastic athlete. I think he's a fantastic competitor. I don't know he's a fantastic fighter, just because we haven't quite seen it just yet. Now, in the fight with Kevin Lee, it's like, okay, perfect. Just like every other fight he's in, he has a wrestling advantage. Only Kevin Lee knows how to wrestle himself. So Gillespie doesn't go out there and initially just shoot the wrestling. He decides to strike with him a little bit. His jab looking good. His striking looks like it's improving and it's coming along. But as soon as he's getting hit, he starts kind of shying away from it. You can tell when they go punch for punch that Kevin Lee is not being affected by Gregor's shots, and that Gregor's visibly being upset by everything that Kevin's landing and touching him with. Then you think back, it's like, you know what? Gregor's never really been hit. Gregor's never really been in a gut check situation. Gregor's never really been caught before. So this is all new to him, and I didn't really like the way he was reacting. And then, Kevin Lee puts a shin lopside his head, and then that's the end of it. So it's a nasty knockout. But it was the process before the knockout. It was that he's finally matched with a tough top 10 guy, maybe a top 5 guy, but certainly a top 10 guy. And it's like, now that he's met his match, his wrestling, he's not even using it. His striking, you can see he's not super comfortable in there, and then he gets knocked out. Now you give the guy like a year and a half off since a devastating KO loss. Again, 34 years old. Not sure what I can expect out of him. When I look at the flip side of this, Carlos Diego Ferreira, he's a little bit older himself, But man, the guy's got skills everywhere. So, namely, his best skill that we're going to bring into this fight is that he's the third-degree Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's extremely crafty, opportunistic off his back, loves to scramble, loves to push a pace, loves to attack arm bars, omoplatas, whatever he can, he will submit you at all costs, or he'll scramble and get back up to his feet. His takedown defense, not that it's bad, but when you're that good at jiu-jitsu, you welcome the takedown a lot of the time. So the last fight with Beneil Dariush, Beneil scores 5 takedowns on him. That's kind of what leads Beneil to getting the victory. He's able to ground him, and Beneil, being a high-level BJJ black belt himself, is able to stay out of trouble. When the fight is standing, competitive, Carlos Diego has his moments. He gets stung, he gets hurt to the body, but durability seems to be in check, pace seems to be in check, cardio seems to be in check. We know that his grappling's on check, and the fact that he pushes a ferocious pace standing, like a in-your-face, aggressive, close the distance, close the pocket. It's not a finesse game, but putting that kind of pressure and that aggression on Gillespie, as I mentioned from before, I don't know that he's going to be able to handle it. So reactionary takedowns are going to be there for him, and because he spent his entire life wrestling, I think he's going to take them. And when the fight hits the ground, I think that Carlos Diego Ferreira has something up his sleeve for him. Whether he catches him in a submission, whether he's able to sweep, whether he's able to just tire him out, or whether he's able to just scramble, get back up, and catch him with something, he's going to make him work for the entire duration of the 15 minutes and hopefully catch him at some point inside of that. So again, looking at the line and look at Carlos Diego Ferreira plus 155, I think this is a dog or pass situation for me personally. And again, it pains me to say this because I've never bet against Gregor, right? I've always rode the Gregor train. But outside of that Gleico Fraca first fight, which was even money, dude's always a 4 to 5 to 1 favorite because of the level of competition he's been fighting. He's always a huge favorite. Carlos Diego Ferreira, last guy to knock him out is Dustin Poirier. He just won a hard 3 rounds with Beneil Dariush, who's a top 5 challenger. Like he's fought in a good level of competition, and the guys that aren't quite on his level, he blows right through them, and makes them look way out of his league. Jiu-jitsu done on a different level. That's going to be key here for me. So I think this is another live underdog on a card chock full of potential dogs. I think this is one of them.
All right. Yeah. So Vegas is telling a story where Gillespie should be quite a bit ahead on the scorecards as they're pricing him in that almost 2 to 1 range. And when we look at the data, I think that's justified. Both these fighters are landing about 1.5 strikes a minute more than their opponents over their career. But we got a guy like Gillespie landing 7 takedowns every 15 minutes. And a guy like Ferreira, on the flip side of that, his takedown defense is a little bit lackluster at 68%. He's never fought a wrestler quite like this, so this is a below average spot for that. I would expect that number to come down. And, you see Gillespie with a 47% accuracy on his takedowns. Yeah, this is probably right around his average type of wrestler he's fighting here, maybe a little lower. But ultimately, I think he's going to have no trouble taking this to the mat. Now, when it's down there, yeah, he will be at risk of submissions and the rest, and that plays into the variance that would be built into the total here. But ultimately, I think we can take this data set and we can make some adjustments on it and then see the real story I think that the line maker is telling. For Diego Ferreira to land his usual 4.8, he's going to have to keep this standing a lot more than it will be. I think that we can model out that Gillespie takes, at least 6 to 9 minutes of control time. But if we even get it down to that 6-7 mark, we're eating half the clock. So I think that could really impact for strikes a minute and bring it down into like the range of 3, low 3s. And then he's going to be absorbing in the high 3s based on modeling this out with the kind of stuff Gillespie does in control time. So I can see why Gillespie's the favorite, and I actually like him to win this fight. It does seem like a close fight on paper, and I agree Ferreira's the better striker. So as long as it's on the feet, it's kind of his world. And even when it's on the ground, that puts him in positions to possibly throw up a triangle or a nice scramble and get out of the position. But even with all those scrambles, I think that's just going to lead him to getting back up and take him back down even more. So I could see Gillespie actually landing in the range of 9 takedowns here, or at least 7 as it is averages. And with all that, once it's all settled, I think that puts Gillespie ahead on the scorecards. And since I have this going to decision more often than not, I would have to say that there's a little bit of value on Gillespie. I think he should be winning this fight at closer to like a 75% clip in the event that he is going to land the takedowns I'm modeling out. So yeah, it might feel like it's close on the feet, but if he lands over 7 takedowns, I think it's pretty much a wrap on the scorecards. So yeah, I find a little bit of value here. Like I said, on Gillespie as the favorite. I don't mind that at all. I can see being interested in the underdog for most people, and he will be a popular underdog. So don't get me wrong, that will be happening. But yeah, I'll be on Gillespie Island here one more time. Amanda Ribas coming in as a whopping size favorite against Angela Hill. We'll talk about that line in a little bit, but we're going to let Cody take you through the fight first. Take it away, Cody.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think I would probably classify it as a live underdog opportunity for Angela Hill. Normally, you're getting Angela Hill as a large favorite, and she's fought in the who's who. Not only has she fought in all the best girls in the division, the ranked Claudia Gadelhas and the Carla Esparza, she's also fought all these up-and-comers that you're now starting to crop up in the UFC, like Adrian Carnelosi or Loma Luca Blume. Like, she'll fight anybody. She'll fight 5 times a year. She'll fight 6 times a year. She'll take fights on 2 weeks' notice. She'll fight anybody. And generally speaking, I mean, she's a favorite. She's coming in with a little bit of momentum into that fight with Michelle Waterson, and it's a 5-round headlining fight. This is a huge spot for Angela Hill, and man, close fight, split decision. As you mentioned earlier, Michelle Waterson 1 for 18 on takedown attempts, and Angela Hill actually outstrikes her. It's a close fight, could go either way. 2 judges instead of 1 give it the other way to Michelle Waterson, and she loses. So now that you're getting her at plus 155 underdog status, it actually doesn't look good as far as dog money is concerned. We know that she's got the striking advantage. We know that she's got great output, especially over the course of 3 rounds instead of 5, so she can push a pace on a lot of people. It's that the same thing that's kind of been cropping up for her entire career is that takedown defense, that physical strength inside the clinch, being able to work her up against the cage, neutralize her, stall her, and just kill time off the clock. If that rears its ugly head again here, then Angela Hill is going to have the same problems that she always does. And with Amanda Ribas, one would assume that she's probably going to go out there and pursue takedowns. Here's why I would say live underdog opportunity Angela Hill is that Hill's made a lot of improvements to the takedown defense. You look at the Claudia Gadelha fight where Claudia is, much more physical, much more larger, stronger opponent, doesn't have, great wrestling, but is so strong that she always gets these initial takedowns in the first couple of rounds. You look at the Carla Esparza fight, you look at, obviously, her last fight against Michelle Waterson, is that her wrestling, especially the takedown defense, has come a long way. You need to chain wrestle. You need to put multiple takedown attempts together. You need to continuously grind on her. One single shot is just not enough to do it anymore. Long gone are the days of Ronda Marcos just going out in there and getting her down. Long gone are the days of Ashley Yoder just going out there and getting her down. And again, you've seen the rematch between Yoder and Angela Hill. That fight, the progression, the difference that she is from the last fight, whereas Yoder hasn't really made any improvements. It's Hill's making improvements. She's a little bit older. But keep in mind, she was already 30 when she turned pro. So I think that this is somebody that is still having a little bit of upside and still getting a little bit better. Ribas, meanwhile, Ribas comes from a striking background. Her father was a striker, grandfather was a striker. She's like a 4th-generation striker. Someone that certainly knows how to strike, but she's just relying heavily now on these judo tosses or these like little wrestling attempts, getting the opponent to the ground and then neutralizing for that first round. Can she submit the Paige Van Zandts of the world? Yeah. Can she routinely ground out and defeat a Ronda Marcos, a sub 500 gatekeeper type fighter? Yeah. And in that Marina Rodriguez fight, I thought that she would continue that train. She's very pretty. She's only 27 years old. She's out of American Top Team. Surely the UFC wants to market a girl like this. And in the first round, she gets her takedown. She controls Marina Rodriguez. No ground and pound. No submission attempts. Positionally, just gets the fight to the ground, holds it to the ground. But it's that second round. Rodriguez catches her and hurts her back, puts her away. She kind of looks lost. And then I got thinking, I don't know how comfortable she is with her striking. She's just looking to wrestle a lot more. Does she take Hill down? Potentially. Does she take Hill down consistently over the course of 15? Again, yet to be seen. But if she doesn't get the fight to the ground, and if this ends up being a striking battle, again, it's live underdog Hill. Plus 155 for her to go out there, land the volume, land a little bit more in the exchanges, and hope keep this thing close and competitive, go to a scorecards and eke it out. Yeah, I think that there's a shot there. So at the very least, if you're not looking to take another underdog shot or you don't agree with this underdog selection, at the very least, if you pass. I'm not looking to bet Ribas at that price.
Yeah, so we're seeing the bookies saying, Ribas here at minus 190, so that's about a 64% probability, 65. That's not what I see in the film. And when we look at the data, I see, why people might think that. We got Amanda Ribas here, 4.25 strikes a minute landed to only 1.78 absorbed. She's got a huge spread there. It's hard to lose fights when you're that much ahead per minute. especially in these lower women's weight division where there's less knockout power, less variance. But when we look over the strength of schedule, I think that's exactly where you find the value. There's a big difference between Angela Hill and Mackenzie Dern a couple months after giving birth. That's basically like just a throwaway, get the rust off fight, in my opinion. Fighting Randa Marcos, fighting Paige Van Zandt, that's not the same thing as striking with Angela Hill. So when I model this out, I have to make huge adjustments in the numbers. I don't have Amanda Ribas anywhere near her averages. Like, I think Angela Hill's the best fighter she's ever fought, and so that's going to drastically change her production numbers. And I drop it far enough to actually have it as a negative strike differential. I have Angela Hill outlanding her in this fight. Angela Hill's fought, pretty reasonable competition. She's fought lots of good fighters. She's fought lots of crappy ones, but she's got a ton of data built into her data pool. And you know what? She's a plus 14% on the striking versus expected metric. 64% defense is really good with a 50% accuracy. That makes her a well above average striker. And like I said, Paige Van Zandt, Randa Marcos, Mackenzie Dern on that, day and time, not good strikers. They're well below average strikers. So yeah, I agree with you here quite a bit. I think Angela Hill outstrikes her by a decent margin, probably at least half a strike a minute, and pulls ahead throughout this fight. If she can stuff enough takedowns, I think it's her fight to lose. And so, yeah, I modeled this out a lot closer to a pick'em. Actually, a little bit puzzled as to why Ribas is such a big favorite. She was a really, really big favorite against Rodriguez. That didn't bother me. I modeled that one out, and I liked Rodriguez a lot. And that felt good to hit a dog that big when it wasn't justified. And here again, I'm kind of baffled by this line. I think if anything, you could maybe even make a case that Hill should be a favorite. That's how much I do think these odds are off. Well, that wraps up the main card. Where do you want to take it from here, Cody? Should we talk Phil Hawes and Kyle Daukaus? Let's do that. Kick it off.
Yeah, I think Phil Hawes, Kyle Daukaus is a decent little spot here. It's a good spot because I think you can look at it. This is another good live betting opportunity. So Phil Hawes is a specimen. We all know that. He's got freak athleticism, great explosiveness, huge power, and he's live in any first round that he can go out there and he can land that big bomb on you and put you away. This is a guy that wrestled in college with John Jones, Colby Covington. He's John Jones's boy. Was on The Ultimate Fighter, was supposed to win the season, fanned out. Signed with the World Series of Fighting, was supposed to be a huge prospect, loses to Lewis Taylor, 38-year-old Lewis Taylor by second-round guillotine. Signs with Contender Series, this is a contract fight, get into the UFC, fighting right in front of Dana, and gets absolutely folded by a Julian Marquez head kick. I mean, he's just got a career of being a letdown, because outside of that first round, the wheels just fall off, baby. Do they ever? My God. As gifted as he is in the first 5 minutes, around the 6-7 minute mark is when he starts to fatigue. When he starts to fatigue, he doesn't got a great chin. He's got low decision making, and I mean, he gets desperate. We saw in the Imavov fight, I was big on Imavov there. I thought not only is Imavov going to win this fight, Imavov's going to finish this fight by TKO, and Imavov's going to probably finish this fight in the third round. I got a nice third round prop. I got Imavov inside the distance. And by the way, Nasruddin Imavov was a plus 125 to begin with, right? So it's dog, and it's a dog that I really like. A lot of people are on Phil Hawes because, hey, man, nobody takes the Imavov's a little hittable. Nobody takes Phil Hawes' shots. Watch, Phil Hawes is going to walk right through this guy. But, dude, it was classic Phil Hawes. The first round, he looked like $1 million, $2 million. And then around that 6 or 7 minute mark, he just completely falls apart. He left Greg Jackson's camp where he was John Jones's boy, lead training partner, and he went to Sanford MMA. And it looked like in Brave CF, in the regional promotions in the Middle East, that, yeah, against lesser competition, he's going to get those knockouts. You look at the majority of his victories, they're quick. That's how he likes it. Fast money, get out. It's when he gets extended is when he's going to have a problem. I like Imavov. But what happened in the Imavov fight is Nasruddin is full-time out of France. He doesn't have a ton of these high-level wrestlers to work with. So the first round, he gets shit-kicked. Okay, no doubt about it. We're going to agree about that one. But as soon as Hawes tires, Imavov in the second round almost knocks him out. Imavov in the third round, this close to knocking him out. But, man, Phil Hawes just resorts to wrestler mode, presses him up against the cage, and just kills time off the clock. If this is Pride, this is Japan, if this is high school, and it was a high school fight, you'd go back to class being like, yeah, Nasruddin Imavov won the fight. Because even though it was a dicey first 5 minutes, he could the last 10 minutes he almost knocks him out twice, and all you have Hawes doing is just holding on to him. It's not a good look going forward because Imavov showed bad ring IQ, bad cardio, bad wrestling defense, no ability to get his back off against the cage, and still almost knocked him out twice and won the fight. If he's going to fight anybody at a higher echelon, it's going to be a problem for him. When I look at this fight, I think Kyle Daukaus isn't a world beater by any means, but him and his brother, they're tough. They're both Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts. They're tough out in Pennsylvania, making a lot of improvements, particularly to their boxing. And I think that what you see in the Brandon Allen fight is that he's routinely getting taken down and controlled in the first 10 minutes, but the kid's in the fight the entire time. And as Allen starts to tire, Daukaus starts to take over. His brother now is 3-0 as a heavyweight in the UFC, and is kind of like one of the top up-and-coming prospects of the division. And I think that Kyle's making a lot of improvements as well. Not only does he have the grappling, as I mentioned, BJJ black belt, the boxing's coming along, the durability's come along, still only 28 years old, and starting to accrue a little bit of experience in the UFC. He's 1-1, won his last fight against Stolfoots, better showing for himself, lower level of competition, of course, than a guy like Brandon Allen. But he's coming along. He's heading in the right direction. So, again, I see in this fight it's going to be similar. You're going to have Hawes going to go out there and probably put it on Daukaus round. Take him down if he wants to, beat him in the striking exchanges. Daukaus needs to survive. After that first round's complete, Hawes, one would imagine, would be a sizable favorite because he's the favorite to begin with, and banking one round and looking as good as Hawes usually does in that round, one would believe you're going to get a solid plus money play on Daukaus. And I really do think that Daukaus is able to keep in this fight long enough to turn the tide in the later in the second or maybe in the third round. Can he knock him out? Yeah. Can he submit him? Yeah. But it's basically test his cardio, tire him out, take him into deeper waters, and then once you get there, drown him and get the finish. So I got Daukaus, and I know a lot of people like to chase those like third round props, and I know I had chased one the last time with Imavov. This is another great spot. It's a great spot to always bet third round finishes when you're betting against Phil Hawes because you know he's probably going to give it up second or the third. But once he gets tired, it's like it's not that he's a bad fighter. It's that fatigue does it to everybody, right? And Hawes is he's not above it. I mean, his gift is his curse. All that explosiveness, all that takes its toll on you. You know, you can't just sprint all the time. You can't sprint all the time. Sometimes you got to pace yourself, get into a rhythm. And I don't know if it's fear. I don't know if it's anxiety. I don't know if it's just he has that much belief in his power, why he tries to finish the fight so quick. But if it doesn't work, it's going to be a problem. Daukaus has never been finished. And if that trend continues here, he's going to come out victorious.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there. I was looking at Phil Hawes, and my main concern with him is his gas tank. And of course, if you run out of gas, that adds in all the variants I like to avoid. If you happen to notice, I like fights that I can, basically bank on going to decisions. So I just have to model out who should be ahead on the strike count and control time and the rest. And it seems like, I get what I think I'm going to get a lot more often. It's the variance that scares me. And with his gas tank being so uncertain, I couldn't bite on this. But there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that Phil Hawes will come out in round one and take the lead. And when you have an underdog that's going to be taking the lead early, generally speaking, that's a pretty good situation to be in. Because one, you can visually see his gas dissipating. So you have the opportunity to hedge out. And like you mentioned, there's a really good chance he'll be behind if he doesn't get the finish early. So I think you can get a great deal on Daukaus after round one or late round one, just like you said, because at about the 6-7 minute mark, we do see him fall off a cliff. We want to be ahead of the market on that. So before the end of round one, you're probably going to find yourself with a nice, plus 200-ish on Daukaus in the event that, it looks like Hawes still has his gas. If we wait till it's visually noticeable, that's going to, it's going to be priced into the market pretty quick. So I think that's a great play. There's nothing better than a dog that's going to come out on fire and take the lead and thus become the favorite on the live betting market 2-3 minutes into the fight. So I'm going to wrap it up with that. I think it's a great spot. Sprinkle a little on Hawes, live hedge out on Daukaus, and just enjoy the fight. I think Angela Hill's probably the best value on this card. Cody, what do you got for the top value pick?
Yeah, top value pick. I mean, I think we all missed the value on Carlson Harris, who's kicking off the card. He's currently sitting at minus 155. So if you were able to jump on that one at the get-go, that would be one. I would say top value pick. If you're not betting a straight-up underdog, I don't know. I got so many underdogs on this card.
On the...
If I had, Yeah, if I had to believe like who for a good price is a favorite that should win, I would say Donald Cerrone at minus 190 seems very reasonable. If I wanted to pick one single underdog that I think has a good chance of cashing, I would go with I'm gonna go with Diego Ferreira. I know you don't want to hear it because you're on Gregor Gillespie,
No,
but
I don't mind that.
I don't know. I got a feeling. I got a feeling he just catches him at something. I know we didn't talk about it as
I
well,
know.
but Jung Young Park, he looks to be a live underdog as well. He's super durable. They call him the Iron Turtle for a reason, man. He's super
Yep.
durable and he's got good pace and good wrestling. Like he's able to control Tafon and Jakui up against the cage. He's gonna have some success. He's live underdog. Carlson Harris, I really like. He's the favorite. Zaruk Adeshev is a slight underdog. You probably want to pass on that fight, but he is live. Ludovic Klein looks unreal, but you totally missed the line on that one as well. He's now currently sitting at minus 250 after opening up at minus 150. So that's the problem is that if we were to do this show earlier in the week, knowing our luck, there'd be half the card would be canceled come fight night, right? With COVID tests and
Yep.
late injuries and missing weight cut and all that. But if you do the fight midweek or you do the show midweek like we do, a lot of the times you do miss a lot of these lines. But anyways,
Yeah.
I don't want to be one of those guys that's like, oh, well, I would have bet it, but missed the price. It's like, I think this guy's going to win. And so regardless, I think he's going to win. And if I think he's going to win, then we're betting it. But you want to bet it by the numbers. It's
Okay.
like, be smart. Last week's card was very volatile, a lot of very sticky spots on it. And I think that we did a good job coming out on the other side clean. This card, same thing. I see a lot of these difficult spots. So I just want to be smart with it. We've got a PFL card tonight or for the Thursday. There's a Bellator on the Friday. There's the UFC on the Saturday. Be smart. Spots that you like. Mix and match if you need to. But I see this as being a profitable weekend. So hope for the best as always. If you need any questions or you have anything at all, hit me up on Twitter at CJ Saftic. And yeah, Dave, let's get it on, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. Hit us up on Twitter. Got Linesniper HQ on Twitter as well. Check out the website, linesniper.com. We'll wrap up the show there. Thank you, Cody, for joining me. For Linesniper, Cody Saftic, I'm Dave Milhouse. We'll see you next week.